Hi, yes, I don't know what I'm doing, but we're making art anyway and seeing what happens. I'm Blaze, and welcome to Blaze Comics Artist. So this is my first time ever actually talking on one of my videos, and we're gonna see how this goes. I figured I would just yap at you guys for a bit about my OC and kind of the OC making process for me a little bit. Now I already have this OC. I've had her for a little bit, but I thought it would be fun to kind of like use her as kind of an example of what I do. If you want to know a little bit about this OC, her name is Atlas Lycanthrope. She is a werewolf character, as you will clearly see. I kind of made her for the purpose of a comic that I'm wanting to make / in the process of making right now. Really the idea of it is it's just a fun fantasy romance-esque comic. Kind of have a bit of vibes from Twilight, kind of not, because I've actually never read Twilight and I kind of hate the idea of it anyway. But did I still go with a vampire werewolf trope? Yes, I did. It's really fun for me. I enjoyed making the comic. Actually, I have a previous video that I did about like 3 months ago now, or 4 months ago now, that was me doing one of the pages for the comic. It's going to be more of a webtoon. I'm not actually going to put it on webtoon because of all the controversies that have gone on with that, but I figured I could put it on Tapas. I've been looking into places to put it on. I may just put it on my Instagram as well. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I'm gonna figure that out. Anyway, as you can see, this is me and my sketching process. I typically use about 3-ish layers for sketching. Now, I will say I did use a different technique for doing this artwork than I normally do. I thought it would be fun to kind of play around with how I do my art, kind of do it a bit more in like a sketch and then paint and then ink style, instead of how I usually do it, which is sketch, ink, and then color and render. So, but I think it turned out really well in the end, as you'll see. As you can see on the side, I have a couple of references next to the work. It's a scroll through kind of reference thing. And then as you saw at the first part of the video, I kind of put references up on there to have the basic poses down, because I am not super great with anatomy at times. And getting the base down of it really helps me. So that's why I use photos. Sometimes art, if I'm looking for a specific thing, like with her, she's half werewolf, half witch. So I used a free run pose to kind of have that mage staff that I wanted to go with, and have that somewhat of a ethereal, like magic look. Other than that, I try and steer more towards photos now. I used to use bases a lot. I still use them sometimes when I'm just doing stuff for myself. But I try to use more photos than like reference poses that other people made now. Just to kind of help me with my anatomy. But yeah, as for actually making my OCs, I would say that my process is a bit of find a general niche, whether that is superheroes, werewolves, vampires, fantasy, something like that. A while ago, I was very into the My Hero Academia fandom, and that's honestly kind of really what got me into the making OCs space. My first ever OC really was my character that I had for My Hero. Her name was Blaze. She was the half-sister of the pro hero Hawks. It was really funny. I really enjoyed it. That was when I was in like high school and even into college. I really liked drawing her. I've kind of steered away from that now, as she was kind of like almost a self-insert Yume kind of ship deal, because I shipped her with Dobby. Yes, I have that kind of taste in anime men. But generally, that's kind of how I go about, like, first getting the idea for OC is like, oh, a show I like, or, oh, here's, like, this idea that I kind of like a fantasy idea, and I kind of want to expand off of that, and then I kind of start creating the characters. Now, my first OC, Blaze, she's gone through so many redesigns, it's not even funny. I think at this point she's had about like 6 or 7 redesigns. No joke. But with Atlas here, I have not done as many redesigns. This is technically her 3rd redesign. I like drawing different outfits on her, so that I don't count as a redesign in and of itself. Some people consider that a redesign. I don't, because I just like drawing her in different outfits. I think it's fun. But typically, a redesign for me is like if I change the hair, or if I drastically change the character. But other than that, I typically don't think I redesign characters all that much. Like I said, she's on her about 3rd redesign. Now, there were earlier concepts of her when I was in high school, because most of my OCs are old, and I just repurposed them, or things like that. But her original kind of concept that I had when I was in high school was with a story/comic me and a friend were making. And it was more of like a supernatural superhero kind of work. And the idea was Atlas was a half angel, half demon, and then her love interest, Hayden, was a demon, or like either a demon or I think the son of Satan. It was a whole thing. We were those kids in high school that came up with that kind of shit. So it was really funny. And eventually I kind of tried to expand on that idea, and I was like, okay, what if, like, we kind of make it more biblical in a way, like maybe they're related to characters in the Bible. I ended up not really liking that idea either. Kind of just the idea went away for a while. I stopped thinking of that project. I went on to other projects. Most of them comics that I thought I was going to make, and then proceeded to not to, because ADHD be a bitch and a half, and I just, I come up with ideas, and then I have no motivation to actually do and or finish ideas, or continue. So, after that, we kind of, just put them away for a while. But I would say probably around my senior year of college, right after I got out of college, is when I got into this idea again. Also, I apologize for the perspective of my shoes for her. I'm still learning how to draw shoes because they are hard. And plus, this is a different shoe than I usually draw. I usually draw boots. But here we are trying to draw like cute little doll shoes, as I like to call them. But anyway, but yeah, around my senior year of college, the year I got out of college, I decided, let's, maybe let's look into this idea again, kind of scrap the angel demon thing, because I just feel like it wasn't working anymore. And it kind of wasn't what I wanted to do with this project. And so then we ended up going to what I lovingly call my Twilight era with it, because I started getting into some different comics that had werewolves and witches and vampires. One that I can think of, I think it's called Morgan the Witch. I think anyway. I don't remember the exact name of it, but I think it was like Morgan the Witch was one, and the other one is this one on Webtoon that I was heavily endeared to in my last years of high school and into college was Lumine. I also really liked the Webtoon Siren's Lament. That one was a personal favorite as well. But I was like, those are cool and everything. And I was like, let's take that and kind of make a story out of it. For this story, I will try not to give too many spoilers, because I do want to actually finish the comic pages that I'm working on, / chapters, and actually be able to publish them. But the gist of the story is basically where Atlas, a werewolf / witch, falls in love with Hayden, who is a vampire. And there is a lot of lore in the story. And one of my first takes at it, I actually had a lot more characters, mainly side characters that I thought I would involve. They may or may not come into fruition, but I'm thinking of just sticking with a couple of the basics that I had. Which is Atlas, Hayden, and then adding a bit of a love triangle is her best friend / protector, Camden, who is also a werewolf, but he's just full werewolf. And just kind of doing like a will they, won't they, slow burn romance is what I'm hoping to accomplish with this comic. Like I said, there's a lot of elements of fantasy in it. Kind of the idea with each type of supernatural creature, like werewolves, vampires, witches, is that each is the big species, or like big house in the species, almost like Harry Potter houses in a way, but kind of not. Where like witches are like the ones who run like the human group, they're the highest class, and then like the human group has like witches, humans, elves, and like dwarves. I was thinking of possibly also fairies, although they might be moved, or I may not include fairies at all, but that was part of a first draft of this idea. But kind of having it as witches are like the highest class of the humans, and then humans and elves are kind of like your middle class, and then dwarves would be your lowest class. And then for the vampires, I called them the highest class of the undead, and the undead included things like the vampires, Grim Reapers, ghosts, poltergeist. I know poltergeist are another type of ghost, but in my version, poltergeist were created by witches, actually. I don't know the mechanics of how witches created poltergeist, but I thought it was an interesting idea. It's not essential to the lore. I'm probably not gonna have a poltergeist in the story. Maybe I will, but then I have to really cement that lore in there. But then after the undead, you have the hybrid class, and so werewolves would be considered the highest class in the hybrids, and then there's centaurs, fauns, mermaids, and harpies. And kind of how I thought these groups would work, the human group, the undead group, and the hybrid group, is the humans, specifically witches, are kind of not into the undead or hybrids at all. Basically kind of racism / speciesism, but like more speciesism than it is racism. Because apparently I wanted to touch on that commentary. But I thought that would be interesting for the story, of having it be like there's tension between these three groups, specifically the highest classes of each group. And the vampires are very like old-fashioned, very like classy. As far as like the lore for vampires goes in this story, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do they were originally human or they're their own thing. I may figure that out a little bit later down the line. It's not super essential right now because I'm still in the beginnings of this story. As of right now, like where I am writing it wise, I would say I'm about a few chapters in, if you want to call it chapters. I kind of use the webtoon, how they do episodes, just to kind of help myself with it. But I have about technically 4 episodes. I have a prologue, and then I have written episodes 1, 2, and 3. I'm currently working on the prologue, actually drawing it and everything. That was my last video that I posted, again, like 4 months ago. It's been a bit of a hiatus because I was trying to find a new job, which was difficult. And that'll be a story for another day, probably. But as for working on this, it's been a bit of a hiatus working on the actual story because, again, I was trying to find a new job and I was trying to get out of the job that I was in. I worked retail for a long time. I don't work retail anymore now, yay. But because of that, I was like just severely burnt out at my job and just really was not working on anything creative because it was so draining at work that I would just be like, I just want to go home and sleep. But now I'm back in the creative groove, and I'm super excited about that. So as you can see, what I'm kind of doing, because I've barely talked about this artwork at this point, and sorry. I kind of did it where I went in and kind of painted, quotation marks around painted, the skin tone on one layer, and then the clothing and hair on 2 separate layers. And then I'm going in and outlining everything, doing the line art afterwards. I found that a lot easier, and I liked it a lot more doing it this way, and I may do it this way from now on. I do realize when I was doing the rendering for shading that I did not particularly keep one light source, but it's fine. It is what it is. And at the end of the day, I still like the artwork. This was kind of me doing a character sheet to kind of see Atlas in some different poses and do some different things with her. Have her wolf form as well, because she is a werewolf. But yeah, just kind of figuring out a different technique is super fun. I realized I was like, I'm gonna give advice for this thing, and I've barely given advice for doing this. My advice for creating characters and just drawing characters in general is get a rough idea of what you like, whether that's you're really into a certain anime, or you really like this type of trope and you want to draw a character based off of a trope. Just get a basis of something like that, and then just start creating. Find different reference photos, or find characters that you'd like to try and base your character's personality off of. I know with Atlas, my idea was that her personality is almost like Fluttershy's from My Little Pony, where she's just kind of shy and, you know, kind of does the whole yay kind of deal, like very soft-spoken. That was my idea with her. Actually, in one of Alice's first designs that I had, she had what I lovingly call the Melanie Martinez halftone hair, because I also really loved Melanie Martinez, and I probably put that into her look a little bit with the hair and also the tooth gap that I've now given her. I did away with the halftone because I feel that it's a bit overdone at this point, and that's why I changed it to this hairstyle, where it's the blonde in the front, brown in the back, and the blonde is kind of like her bangs. I just kind of thought the halftone was a bit overdone at this point. Like, Melanie Martinez has done halftone hair for a long time. There's Todoroki from My Hero Academia, and then also just a lot of, like, people kind of especially younger kids, because I was definitely in the demographic in high school of, like, I'm gonna give them halftone hair, because, like, my first OC Blaze, she almost always has halftone hair. She still does in her last design I did before I completely scrapped her design entirely, and I've redone it entirely to where now she really does just kind of look like a bit of a version of me. So again, it is a bit of a Yume ship thing with her. But with Atlas, I kind of wanted to get away from that. It was something I did a lot, and I'm like, we need to do different things and not just have my main character have half-tone hair, because that's what's recognizable. And will the whole half werewolf, half witch thing stick? Probably. Is that a bit much? Maybe, but I'm trying to work that in the story and kind of figure out where I'm going with that. Like I said, this is still in pretty early development. I don't have all of the lore set in stone, but I'm early enough in it that I don't have to have the lore set in stone right now. At least not most of it. But I think it's a really fun project and idea. I always go for things, and plus this project is a bit of my cringe revival. I'm in support of drawing cringe at this point in my life, because you know what? The cringy stuff makes me happy, and that's okay. I'm allowed to have that. Yeah. Also, what I'm doing right now is writing her name, and I'm kind of trying to do it like how I think she would write her name. I like to do that for my characters. I think it adds a little bit more to them. Also, another thing with creating OCs, if you're looking for stuff to like figure out more about their personality and things like that, I definitely recommend doing like different quizzes online. I used to do a lot of quotive quizzes. I don't know if anyone remembers that website. I was deep in the trenches of that website. But I used to do quizzes on there, and sometimes I would do it in like my characters. Like I'm doing it as my character. That, or like find music that you think they would like and stuff like that. I've definitely been a big advocate for like creating Spotify playlists of like my character would listen to this. I've done that a lot for a lot of my anime OCs that I have. I'll do like a playlist for them. So do things like that if you're looking to find things to like figure out their personality more. Take quizzes, take like the Myers-Briggs quiz, personality quiz, and different things like that to kind of like figure out their personality. Yeah. I am so unscripted right now, so I'm sorry if I'm just saying a lot. I just, this is what I've been doing, is going unscripted apparently, because that seemed to work this time, other than a project I also have in the works, possibly, for this YouTube channel, which is a bit more of a deep dive on a fandom I was a part of, and recently I've been getting into a bit more again. I won't say too much about it because I am hoping to actually make that video and get it out at some point, but I think it's really cool, and I'm hoping to do more fandom work when it comes to this channel, like talking about fandoms and talking about like the culture that was in the fandom while I'm doing art of the characters, or just art that kind of coincides with it. I would love to do a video on certain DC characters and their lore as well. I have always been a big comic fan. That's why I'm wanting to create a comic with Atlas and her fellow characters that are in the story I have called Eternal Fate. I've just always loved comics. So I would love to do some deep dive stuff on DC Comics. Maybe get into a bit of like how comics worked. Kind of like, what's his name? Nerdsync. I loved his videos when I was in high school. I would love to do some more stuff like him, but have it be me doing art and kind of talking about the lore and background of characters, especially when it comes to the character actually being made and like the propaganda behind the characters. Because I remember this one video that Nerdsync did of the Flash was actually Cold War propaganda, and I thought that was so cool back then. So I would love to do something like that eventually, but that takes a little bit more time and a little bit more work. So right now I might just do more unscripted, me talking about my OCs and yapping apparently about just whatever. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Keep creating, especially if it's messy, and I'll see you next time.